Hey there, friends. It's Jen Piddle with By the Shore Stamping. I'm back for 2017 with our Teach Me Tuesday videos. I took a little unexpected hiatus over the holidays. It kind of knocked me out for a while. I just couldn't get the hang of this again. So I'm coming back now, and I wanted to share with you a really quick Teach Me Tuesday today, just sort of giving you the ins and outs of the 3 different types of black ink that Stampin' Up! Carries. So it might be kind of odd. You know, why do you need 3 different black inks? But there is a distinct purpose for each of them. So I wanted to share that with you so that if you were ever wondering why we had so many or which black, if you have them all, you should use, this should help. So I'm going to start with our Memento black ink. So this one was actually introduced a couple of years ago when we introduced our Blendabilities alcohol-based markers. Unfortunately, the alcohol-based markers had an issue and we had to pull them from the product line, which was very sad because they were super fun. However, I'm hopeful, since they've kept this around, that maybe at some point we will have that ink back. But for right now we don't, or those markers I should say. But right now we don't. However, this Memento ink would be fantastic for any of your alcohol-based markers that you already use or have on hand from other companies. If you have them, you can use this ink with those. This is the ideal ink for that. They won't bleed because the alcohol, it won't run the edges of any stamp images if you use the Memento Black. What I use the Memento Black for is actually, this is the only one that's acid-free. It's acid-free, and it says right on it, it's fade-resistant. So this is a great ink for scrapbooking. If you're a scrapbooker and you like to do some stamping, titles and things like that in your scrapbook, this is a great ink to use because it's going to be the least damaging to, and you know, it's acid-free, so it should be fairly safe for your scrapbook. Again, I still kind of encourage people not to let the ink directly touch the photos if possible, just because you just never know. However, I have come to the conclusion that I still think I'm taking better care of my albums or my photos by putting them in albums in the first place, so it's probably going to last longer than if you were just letting them sit in shoeboxes and stuff, whatnot anyway. But yes, fade resistant and acid free. So this is a great one for scrapbooking. This one here is StazOn, and a lot of you may be familiar. This one's been around for a really long time. This is basically your, I use it mostly for stamping on non-porous surfaces. So what I mean, I'm going to show you what I mean by that in a second. Having said that, we just talked about the fade resistant with Memento. I do actually use this one on my images, on my photos rather. So if you see right here, I stamped Life is Good on this photo with the StazOn black ink. So I know I just said in a minute ago that the other one was the best one for scrapbooking, and it is. I would not use this on any original photos. If this is the only photo you have, do not stamp on it with the StazOn. I use it on my duplicates, and again, I've come, you know, over the years, I've been scrapbooking for 17 years now, so I still feel that just by putting my pictures in a book and putting them in pages and protecting them from the light and the sun and all of that kind of stuff and getting them out of boxes and the magnetic albums and, you know, preventing them from warping and curling and all that kind of stuff, I feel like I'm still a good caretaker of my photos. So stamping on them a little bit to give it a little decorative flair, I don't personally have a problem with that. You may, and that's totally cool. I'll show you another use for that in a second. But for me, it doesn't really bother me as long as it's not an original photo. Again, I would not stamp on anything that's the only photo you have. So I will show you quickly how easy it is to actually stamp on a photo. I'm just going to grab this one because it's right here, and I forgot to grab a stamp for this. So we're going to take the Thanks for Being You. This is actually just a scrap photo anyway. It's kind of blurry, so let me just move you a little bit closer here, and I'm going to push you down so you can see what I'm doing carefully. We already had an accident earlier that I messed up. So when you're stamping with the StazOn on non-porous surfaces, it's important to you always have this little cover on this thing. I'm not really sure exactly why it's there, but I always leave it there. It says do not discard, so I follow the rules. So I'm going to take my stamped image, and it says Thanks for Being You, not my stamped image, my stamp. and I'm going to turn it into a stamped image. I'm just going to stamp it right on this pink because I think that's where it's going to show up. But when you stamp, you have to be careful. It's going to want to slide. Oh, it's actually not bad with the photopolymer. But if you're using some of the wood mount, sometimes it will, because it's a slick surface, it will want to slide. So when you stamp, you want to make sure you go straight down. Whoops, see, and that just slid, and straight up. So see how that just went really blurry? I don't know why it didn't do it the first time, but it did that time. So when you stamp, again, you have to be, I usually take a, you know how you crop your photos down? So I usually take like a little piece of it that I've cropped off, and I'll practice on that first. So like if I cut this off, I'll practice first. Like see, that's still a little bit slippery. So you would practice until you get it right, and then straight down. Whoops, I slid, and straight up. That's probably the better one though. So you can actually see, thanks for being you. So it takes a little bit of practice, and I would use my cutoff pieces before I did it on my actual photo. And I try to do it in an area where if I really did mess it up badly, I could have just, you know, cut that part off or what have you. So, or covered it with an embellishment because it wasn't covering anybody's faces or what have you. So that's that option. The other thing we can do is on, I have one of our 6x8 cello bags, and again, this is going to be a slick surface, so you're going to need to be careful. I'm using the little anchor stamp, and we want to make sure the bag is facing the right direction, which it is. The top is up here. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of do some little anchors. Now this will wipe off at first, so you gotta let it dry, and you can heat set it if it's taking a while. Like this is a big solid image stamp, so it's probably going to take a little while for it to actually dry. So I'm just going to do some random, and again, it's gonna want to slide, so you have to kind of prepare yourself for that. Straight down, straight up, and I probably should have worked down instead of up because I'm running the risk that I'm going to actually stick my hand in one of the ones I've already stamped. But I'm gonna run with it. Whoops, I just slid at the very last second on that. Bummer. I'm gonna do some off the edge here because I think that makes it look a little better. One more here. And then one more over here. So now you could heat set this so it would dry quicker, or you could just set it aside and you could let that dry, and then you could use that. So imagine as well, you could use these on the window sheets that we have. So if you wanted to do a shaker card, but you wanted to have the greeting across the middle, you could do that with the StazOn ink. That would allow that to stamp on the StazOn, and then it would be permanent ink. And wouldn't rub off once it's dry. So I'm going to go ahead and set that aside. And then our third, you can actually also watercolor with StazOn. I personally don't. I watercolor with my archival, but you could do it with the StazOn as well. The basic black is actually the most versatile. It does pretty much everything. This is the great workhorse in your stamp room. The only thing to know about the black StazOn, the basic black ink, is that it does not dry instantly, which actually is a good thing in some terms because it allows you to do more with it. So here, if I stamp this, I'm going to stamp it, and I rub, you get Smear City, right? So, see that? And I have it all over my finger now too. So it does not dry instantly. However, if you give it a minute to dry, it is perfect for watercoloring. And it will work on our watercolor paper. I did try it. I stamped this and then ran my finger over it right away, and it bled a little tiny bit. You can't even really see it unless you're looking at it close. Like, I don't know if you can tell, but it did bleed a little bit when I rubbed my finger right over it. But the watercolor paper actually absorbs it a bit better, so it doesn't have to dry quite as long. But the good thing about it being taking a minute for it to dry is now you can use it to heat emboss. Because, of course, when you heat emboss, you usually use Versamark because Versamark doesn't dry instantly. So you can sprinkle your embossing powder and heat set and emboss. Well, this one doesn't dry either instantly. So you can go ahead and I didn't do it on camera because it wouldn't really show very well, but you could do clear embossing powder over it and then heat set it, and that would give you almost the look of black embossed because you'd have the true black ink showing through, and then it would have the clear embossing over it, so it would look like it was black embossed. So that you can actually do with the basic black as well. Just one other difference too, if you want to see the difference, although it looks like my black ink is running, my basic black is a little bit low, but I'm going to still try and show you the difference. The Memento black versus the basic black is a little bit different in color. Your basic black is going to be a much truer black. So I'm going to stamp, this is my Memento, which actually looks pretty good. And then I'm going to do, and like I said, this, hopefully this will work because my basic black is a little bit less juicy at the moment. I use it a lot. So I'm gonna do that. Oh yeah, you can still see the difference. So see how, I don't know if you can tell in the camera, but this Memento black is a little bit faded, looks a little less bright and bold, whereas this one doesn't. However, like I said, if you want a scrapbook with a black ink, this is going to be your best option because it is fade resistant and it's also acid free. So that is a good thing for those of us that like to scrapbook. This one, great for watercoloring. You can heat emboss with it. You can do pretty much everything with it. It's a great true color black. And then this one, the StazOn, is perfect for your, again, you can watercolor with this one as well. This one, not so much, because this one will bleed a little bit, especially if you're, coloring, swirling, and, it will tend to bleed a little bit more with the watercoloring. This one you can do the stamped bags, you can do photos, you can stamp on photos, you can stamp on acid, not acid, acetate is what I was going for, but window sheets, that kind of thing. So it has a little bit of a direct purpose, a distinct purpose. So you can also use this on the coasters. I don't know if you've ever made tile coasters, but this works well on wood and tile and anything that's like a non-porous surface. This is going to be your go-to black. So I think that kind of covers all of the different options. If you have any questions, though, please feel free to give me a shout. I just thought it might be helpful for you to know the difference between the three blacks that we carry and why you might want them for your different projects. So again, one more review. This one is perfect for your all-around black ink. It's going to work well watercoloring. It will heat emboss. It will be a nice true black. It's just a good workhorse for the stamp room. This one is the best purpose for this one, I think, is for your non-traditional projects, so not paper. So looking at acetate and window sheets and photos and tiles and wood and that kind of thing. This is the one you want to go to when you want to stamp on that kind of non-traditional surface. Again, this one can also watercolor as well. And this one is the ideal one for my scrapbookers, fade resistant, acid free. So that is actually a really good thing. This is also really good for your alcohol markers, which hopefully we'll have some at some point again. That's why this one was introduced to our line a while back, but when those disappeared, we kept the ink because it is still a really nice, easy ink. This one also dries instantly. This one does not. So if you're looking to work quickly and you don't want to wait for drying time, you can use this one. It's going to be a little bit perhaps lighter than this one, but it's going to allow you to move really quickly through your stamping. So if you're stamping like a mass production of stuff and you're just kind of throwing them to the side, this one may be the better option because you're going to be moving so quickly, you're less apt to smear. Whereas this one, you kind of do need to give it a few seconds before it's actually fully dry. So hopefully that helps explain the different black inks that we have. If you have a topic for Teach Me Tuesday that you'd like me to help you with, please feel free to email me at jenpitta@comcast.net. Otherwise, I will see you at bytheshorestamping.com and hopefully next week for another Teach Me Tuesday. Have a great day.